Today we're diving into Hukumu ya Majivu, or The Judgment of Ashes. It's a gut-wrenching story about a profound love that gets absolutely shattered by an unimaginable injustice. It's really a tale about a truth that, no matter how deep you try to bury it, just refuses to stay dead.
Right from the jump, the story hits you with this haunting question. It pulls you right into the core of this terrible dilemma. You know, this isn't just a story you read. It's a gut punch you feel from the very first line.
So, our story begins on what should have been a peaceful morning. But, well, this chapter is called Dawn of Blood, and it really shows you how a perfect life can be utterly destroyed before the sun even has a chance to fully rise.
So let's meet Bright and Nima. They're so deeply in love. Yeah, they might be poor when it comes to money, but they are incredibly rich in hope. Their life in the village of Kibioni is simple, it's quiet, and it's everything to them. And this bond they share is about to be tested in the most brutal way you can possibly imagine.
And then, just like that, everything unravels with breathtaking speed. This isn't some slow burn, it's an explosion. It all starts with an omen, an owl's cry, a classic harbinger of death. Then, bam, a scream from a neighbor's house. Minutes later, a piece of bloody evidence is planted on their doorstep. And by sunrise, it's over. Bright's life is over. A perfectly orchestrated frame-up has turned his entire world into a living nightmare.
The accusation itself, well, that's basically a death sentence here. We're now entering the judgment of the mob, a terrifying moment where whispers turn to shouts, and any hope for a fair trial is just extinguished by pure, unadulterated rage.
And the scene that follows is it's brutal. The very streets where Bright used to share smiles and greetings become his road of suffering. He's dragged like an animal by men who, just yesterday, were his friends. His own close friend Musa even picks up a rock and strikes his head. The betrayal is just absolute.
You see, this tragedy is really a tale of two different kinds of torture happening at the same time. While Bright is enduring this horrific physical torment, first from the mob, then from the police who literally beat a confession out of him, Nima is suffering a different kind of death. She's socially executed, shunned by everyone, branded the wife of a monster, and just left utterly alone.
And this, right here, this is the lie that seals his fate. After a night of just unspeakable torture, with his hand physically guided by a police officer, Bright's thumbprint is pressed onto this document. This forced confession becomes the entire foundation of the state's case against him. The truth? It just doesn't matter anymore.
So now the story shifts gears a bit, moving from that acute, immediate horror of the accusation to the chronic, soul-crushing agony of a long, long prison sentence and total isolation.
15. Just let that number sink in for a second. 15 years, stolen from an innocent man. This isn't just a prison sentence, it's the complete erasure of a life.
Inside Isanga prison, Bright ceases to exist. He becomes a number, 842. His days are just a blur of backbreaking labor and abuse. An old inmate even warns him, prison doesn't eat bodies, it eats memories. And tragically, as the years of darkness and malnutrition wear on, his physical sight begins to fade away, a cruel physical manifestation of the hope that's dying in his heart.
And while Bright is fighting to survive in a physical prison, Nima is trapped in a totally different kind of cell back home. The villagers refuse her water from the well. They tear the roof right off her home, leaving her exposed to the rain and sun. The constant torment, especially from the very witch doctor who framed her husband, just pushes her down into a deep, inescapable depression. And just before taking her own life, Nima scrawls this message on the wall of their ruined home. It's a final, gut-wrenching declaration of love from a completely broken spirit. She just couldn't bear the weight of it all any longer, and she found her freedom in the only way she felt she had left. And then, after all those years of silence, we get a voice from the grave. The truth, as it so often does, begins to claw its way to the surface, driven by the guilty conscience of a dying man.
You know, the architect of this whole nightmare, Mzee Matiso, well, karma comes for him, and it is vicious. He's afflicted with this terrible disease that literally makes his flesh rot while he's still alive. And he's haunted, not just by guilt, but by what he believes are the actual spirits of Nima and the murdered child. And here is how the whole house of cards finally comes tumbling down. Step 1. On his deathbed, Matiso confesses everything to the child's father, Zachariah. Step 2. A schoolboy just happens to overhear the whole thing. Step 3. He tells his grandfather, who's a respected principal teacher. And Step 4. This teacher confronts Zachariah and convinces the guilt-ridden man to write down the entire conspiracy. After 15 years, the lie finally begins to crack.
Okay, this brings us to freedom of ashes. This is the moment we've been waiting for, right? Bright's release. But, well, this is not the triumphant victory you'd expect. It's actually the beginning of a tragedy that's somehow even deeper than the prison sentence itself.
And this scene, it is just absolutely devastating. Bright emerges from prison, not walking tall, but being carried on a stretcher. He's blind, he's frail, a ghost of his former self. And after everything he has endured, the first and only thing on his mind is the woman he loves. He has no idea she's been gone for 10 years.
So the state, in this grand gesture of apology, offers him a truly staggering amount of money. 500 million shillings. It's meant to be compensation, a way to, wipe his tears and give him a new life.
But Bright's response? It's just breathtaking. Standing over Nima's unmarked grave, he takes the government's check and just tears it to pieces. He asks, what good is this money? Can it buy back my eyes? Can it bring Nima back? For him, it's blood money, and it's absolutely worthless.
So in his final days, Bright performs one last act of love. Using his own failing hands, he builds a proper, dignified grave for Nima. And once his work is done, his body, which had held on for so long just for this moment, finally lets go. He dies right there, beside her, finding his true freedom not in any government compensation, but in rejoining her at last.
And that brings us to our final chapter, the shadow of justice. After all this pain, all this tragedy, what's left? I mean, what can a village possibly do with that much guilt? Well, the village tries to atone. They take the very symbols of their cruelty and they transform them into memorials. The road of his torture becomes Bright's way. The well of her suffering becomes Nima's spring, where water is now free for everyone. The money he rejected builds a future for the community, a school and a hospital. Their story gets woven into the very fabric of the village, a permanent cautionary tale for every generation to come.
And this really is the final, powerful takeaway from the whole story. It's this profound statement on truth and justice. Even though it came far too late for Bright and Nima in life, their story ensures that the truth, in the end, triumphed. It incinerated every single lie, leaving a permanent mark on the landscape, a tower of truth rising from the ashes.